gonna need a round of applause for the crowd's favorite. Amazing. We did it. We created probably the strongest Senja build that can be created. Let's get into it. This is Ninja Senja. Now, firstly on this build, I'm gonna start off straight off with the heat. I went in with daggers on Senja. I know what you're thinking. Her abilities are slow, she's sluggish, she got a charge. In what world do daggers make sense? The best bet would just be to put out as much damage as possible with a heavy weapon, with a two-handed weapon, to add up more damage and then do more damage on top of the big hits. Take all that damage that she do off her buffs and put it on really quick attacks like daggers, and constantly get as much use out of it as possible. Because let's get into the abilities first. When you start with the abilities, let's start with this buff, right? You showboat. As you're showboating, you get increasing weapon power and ability power for 10 seconds. This is something that I never liked about her build, about her kit, I would say, is that 10 seconds after you do the full charge on the two-handed weapon is probably about 4 or 5 attacks, right? And that's if you immediately start attacking. If a boss go into a little defense phase, roll away, jump away, you really don't even feel the damage, because by the time you finish the ability, you got about 2-3 seconds left. You get 2 hits and then you're trying to charge it back up, or you're hoping for the cooldown just to get the more damage again. Whereas on daggers, they're more quick, they're more mobile. You can get in right after the buff and do multiple hits. And if the boss is about to swing back, instead of rolling, you know the daggers got the little parry, the counter ability, where if you do the heavy attack, it'll dodge through a few hits and then strike back, letting you get extra damage off with the buff. So just for this skill alone, you're getting more use out of buff. Now, to get to the build, I'm gonna start it off strong, because as you can see, this do give weapon power and ability power for 10 seconds, both. If you go into her passive, the crowd favorite, you already know, she also gets increasing weapon power and ability power as it increases. So this is just stacking both weapon power and ability power. And then on the daggers, when you use the daggers of weapon ability, it triggers blade dance, which make the daggers hit twice on every hit. Whenever you do an attack, after you do your weapon ability, I'm sure most of you know this, but for those who don't, it will count as 2 hits, so it hits twice. And it also gives a weapon power buff on top of that, which is really strong on Senja, because she's already building a lot of weapon power off of her kit, but she's also getting ability power on top of it. So you probably wondering, because if you see here, I also got some ability power. I got 6,000 ability power, 8,000 weapon power. So why would I invest in ability power, you're probably asking? And that is the ultimate. When you use the ultimate, every attack you do makes a chain lightning, as you can see in the little video here. Now, this chain lightning doesn't proc too fast when using the two-handed weapon, as you can see. But just imagine it on daggers that have some of the quickest attacks in the game, or if not the quickest attacks in the game, as well as hitting twice every hit. Remember, each hit is going to make that lightning arc. So it's just doing, every single hit is doing respective ability power and physical power on hit. So it's crazy burst. I can only imagine if you just invest full damage and go crit. Now, you'll be a glass cannon, but I'm pretty sure the burst will be crazy. Also, you gain 20% bonus weapon power and ability power for 20 seconds. So it's just even more So this character buffs up crazy. That's one thing about Senja. She buffs up crazy, and you will feel the power. Like other buffs in the game, you don't really feel it. When it comes to Senja and you start using these buffs, you feel the difference on each hit. But on daggers, oh my god, it's crazy. I'll go through the style really quick, but like I always say, this is destined to change. Uh, I am just trying to unlock all the styles and then choose the best stats. So eventually I'll update you guys on those. But as for artifacts, so I went a very high health because remember this is nightmare mode we're talking about. We're building for nightmare mode. So I have a very high health to create that sustain as well as physical defense and magical defense so I could take a hit. Not too much resilience, but it is enough. So I went for the caretaker's necklace, the totem of the collective, and the maze emblem. And then I went for the hush as the weapon. Now, before we move any further, let me talk about the Hush for a second. The Hush is one of the only weapons in the game. It's a small few of weapons that does an additional effect after the weapon ability. But for this one specifically, whenever you use a flourish point, it summons another shadow clone. Now, your weapon abilities for the daggers is built up depending on how many hits you do. So after you do this first weapon ability, because the daggers is hitting twice, the next build up very quickly, right? And then on top of that, if you got the alt active, you're getting respectively 4 hits on every 1 hit. So each 1 hit counts as 4 on because you got the daggers plus the ability. So 2, 2, 4, you already know. But so the weapon ability actually charges extremely quick, causing you whenever you start to reactivate those flourish points, you're just creating another shadow clone that's coming in and doing a heavy burst of damage on top of the damage you're doing. Which brings me to my next thing, the talents. Now I know y'all want to take a quick look at the talent tree in case you want to follow the path, screenshot it. But the first thing I'm gonna get into is one thing that only the War Masters have. Weapon abilities charges 15% faster. And I noticed in some of my other videos I haven't been talking about this much. How you can get like, for example, each flourish point also gives 5% more weapon power. Um, on my other builds, if you've done any of my other builds, check the accolades because I made sure that while making the build, I made sure that it all synergized. But while talking about it, I did miss to talk about the accolades. So you guys got to go check the accolades and see where a lot of your power is coming from. Because, for example, on the Kairos build, I did have some good magical defense for the accolade that gives more ability power depending on how much magical defense you have. But anyway, so she gets more weapon power each flourish point, which she's using which I'm using 3 most times, so I'm getting a 15%. It doesn't stack, but I'm getting 15% and 15% of my physical defense converts into weapon power because of this. No, not because of that. 15% of my physical defense converts into weapon power just off physical defense. And then 20% of my max health goes into weapon power. So I'm stacking both. I'm stacking the physical defense weapon power and the max health weapon power. Now I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I kinda just figured that out. I thought these was the same thing, but now I'm looking at it again and no wonder I'm so bursty. But anyway, back to the build. And then on top of this, whenever you hit an enemy with a weapon attack, remember you're getting 2 per hit. You gain a stack of mindful, stacking up to 10 times, and using an ability causes all stats to be consumed. Now, you're getting 2 per hit. If you fully charge her punch, it can do some really decent damage, and in this build, you will be using that often because of how much heals you get from the charge punch. And in harder difficulties, you need to sustain, so you'll be using that just to tank through some hits, and then get your hit back, as well as healing a lot of health, because it depends on how much max health you have, which is hence the max health build. But and then if you didn't know, daggers also get the highest multiplier. Like they can multiply up to 300%. And this just increases that heated battle multiplier a little high. And because I'm getting so many hits, I can build that heated battle multiplier up quicker than most other weapons in the game. And then I went with the hard target because I got good physical defense, and you definitely feel that damage. Um, you definitely could feel that damage when someone hits you, and it does that reflect damage. Now, this is also a good option if you because it's 5% of your ability power. So if you did a similar build to mine, but you have a higher ability power because that's something you like, you could get this one because when you use your ultimate, which is crazy, you get big burst. 5% of your ability power will also stack onto it, and it'll just help you really feel that ult. You know what I mean? To me, 5% isn't significant enough, but it could be a lot depending on how much ability power you have. So yeah, so back with the stats, a lot of max health, weapon power, ability power, physical defense, magical defense. But the max health being the most important, which is why I went Caretaker's Necklace, Totem Collective, and Maze Emblem, because I'm trying to get as much health as possible. And just to show the abilities one more time, I've got the pull because maxed out because I wanted that 30% more damage. Like that 30% more damage is very significant compared to, you know, the fully charged punch 20% or the follow up attack doing 15% because in this 6 seconds, how many hits I could get with the daggers, lightning, it's gonna be a lot more than the one punch or just the one hit. Like this would be better if I was using a two-handed weapon and wanted that one big hit. But since I'm going for rapid attacks, it's better to just give them almost a debuff that they take more damage and then constantly dish out as much damage as possible in the 6 seconds. And then the affinity for the affinity, I went focus because it gives me weapon power, physical defense, which is helping my now I know even more that it's helping my damage um because of this accolade right here converts 15% of physical defense as additional weapon power up to a max of 1000. So I know that having that defense is giving me a little bit more weapon power. um so having a go down focus is good, and then it's also just giving me weapon power. And then health, which is because the node also giving me more weapon power because of the max health. Now, and then I went 7 into discipline and 5 into instinct. Now, as for the perks, as you can see, gain 10% weapon power for 5 seconds upon gaining the tier 4 crowd meter. This effect can occur every 12 seconds. Now, like I said, like her times just never made sense to me. Because how little you could do in 10 seconds with the other buff, what am I gonna do with 5 seconds? You know what I mean? With a great sword. And then after you hit tier 4, she kind of does a little rage. If you use the what's the name of the ability? If you use this one, if you use gain favor, and you finish the ability, she's gonna get the buff. She does a little like a little scream that does like a little AOE damage, and then that's already killing 2 seconds. So now you got 3 seconds for this buff, and then you using one heavy attack, and it's like that's it's not it just didn't synergize well, which is why I never liked the character because you're getting all these buffs, but it's like what am I supposed to do with the buff? Like I even tried the shotgun at one point and then did all the buffs and got one shot, and the shot did good damage, but then it's like it's not it just wasn't good until you start to get the daggers. Like I still feel like this isn't the best, but you feel it a little bit. Um, and then I went down the focus tree because of this. I want to double the amount of ability power gained by the crowd's focus meter. The reason why I chose the ability power and not crowd strength, because crowd strength, I'm telling you, is great. Like with this build, she's already got really good weapon power on top of being tanky. So I would understand why most people would go down this tree. Like if you do in this build, you don't have to copy me with this pass at all, because I actually believe the double the weapon power is better than the double ability power. But the reason that I did it is because I got more use out of the reduced crowd decay rate by 50% than I did by when falling below 50% HP, you get the full crowd meter. I personally just felt like this decay rate lets me hold at least one of the buffs a little longer, which is the passive. You know, when you have your crowd's favor, you get more weapon power and ability power. As for which is stronger, I do think that the weapon power will be stronger, but you're not gonna keep that strength as long as I'm gonna keep the strength. Unless you could hold the meter, which isn't too hard, but I don't like to keep starting to charge up when I'm trying to get my burst of damage in. I feel like I gotta keep refilling the gauge instead of just doing as much damage as I can with the daggers. Now again, that's just preference at that point because everybody plays a little differently, and you might have a way to get that damage off and keep the meter up without the decrease in decay rate. So it's still learning, as you can see. I just still learned recently about the talent, uh, the difference between the physical defense and the HP one, and yeah. So we always learning. That's the fun part about RPGs. Keep learning, keep trying new things, and keep making it better. And then for this, the reduced damage, this come in handy for me because, like I said, I always tell you I love mitigation. I actually have an old build before the Wayfinder big changes where I actually had 100% mitigations at one point, and I fought the Reaver King and just literally stand there and take no damage, like literally. So games gotta be careful for RPGs. This is, you know, a player's hot take. Be careful when you dishing out big percents of damage mitigations, right? So when something just makes you take 10% reduced damage. So for example, I take 10% reduced damage, and then I mix that with maybe like the Brute Mother Echo. Um, that makes you take like 50% reduced damage or something. I think it was 60 because the Mythic one. Yeah, you just get a 60% damage reduction. So that 10% plus the 60% will make me take 70% less damage. So taking 70% less damage is almost just like you're not really taking any damage. Like you're so tanky. Like of course this doesn't last long. It's only while you're showboating. But let's just say this was just a natural 10% reduced damage, and then 70% off Brood Mother as long as you got resilience, and then you build a real high resilience, right? Then you just have 60% almost all times because it's rare for someone to break. Wingrave, for example, it's rare for you to break his resilience because of the build. If you watch his build, you can keep building your resilience back up. So you let his resilience get broken that one time, that get low, then you get the Brood Mother passive, and then you don't let his resilience get low again, and your curse is. Oh my god, see what I mean by you keep learning? That's so broken. And you just constantly got a 60% damage reduction, just no matter what. And I think when he heals, he gets a damage reduction. So you'll just be so hard to kill that it becomes broken, and that's what I did with a Kairos build. At some point, I just was unable to die because I had 100% damage reduction, and they no longer did damage. So damage reduction is always good. When you see things like damage reduction, damage mitigation, or take less damage, that's always good to have because it's just chopping 10% off the top. You know what I mean? So really, really, really good. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the build that I had. The build is based around high burst damage as well as being very tanky and sustainability. Create a ninja symbol. I feel like this is gonna be one of the longest videos, but let's get into the hunt. We're gonna do a hard one. And again, just like all my builds before I start, look, got your hopes up. Before I start, she is only a 1 star. So I'm very underpowered, right? You know, as I upgrade the echoes and upgrade my Wayfinder rank and upgrade the weapon rank and get more echo slots and more capacity, you're only getting more tanky, more damage, more health. You know what I mean? So, in other words, the build still has so much room to grow just off of progression. Not off of the build, but off of progression and getting stronger within the game. There's so much room to grow. Because as you can see, I'm like, look at this. I'm negative 1,293 power. So I'm like way behind and where I'm supposed to be if I was to take on this hunt. And we still gonna do it. There she is. Look at her. The game just knew we did it. Before we get into the boss, I forgot I didn't show you guys the echoes. So what I did is I went a lot of ability power, right? Because my build gave so much weapon power that the only way I could keep up was to get ability power within my echoes. So I got a lot of ability power and a lot of defense. And for my defenses, I got mostly max health. I tried to get max health. And I tried to keep my magical defense and physical defense up where it was lacking because I wanted to be at least 5,000 or over. But once I hit that range, I started to invest back into max health. You know what I mean? Once I hit that over 5,000 range on physical defense, magical defense, I started to go for max health. And then once my ability power got decent, so right now it's 7,000. Weapon power 9,000. I feel like that was good. So again, start to go for the health. And then for the rush echoes, this is so good because it's a parry, and using daggers is very easy to parry. And what it does is it gives you a damage shield from 15% of your max health, restores your health, and give a 25% damage reduction, which I was just telling y'all about the damage reduction. And then the same thing for this one actually does damage and then gives the shield. So both of these give a shield, and she gets a pretty massive shield, like as if I was playing Laura, just off of 2 echoes alone. So again, I'm very underpowered for this boss, so I am gonna have to use a little bit of skill. And as you can see, I got that shield. You take the hits like this to get the heal. And then I'm gonna show you the ult. The only reason the ult went up so fast is because I used the potion. But as you can see, how fast the flourish points gain, you can get the 30%. Oh, I hate this boss. I can't really show the damage. But yeah, as you can see, that burst for someone who's 1,000 and some change under the requirement level, I just chunked him. You know what I mean? Chunked him. And I know you see my health going down pretty fast. Again, I am under the requirement level and I'm losing the damage reduction on resilience. But all of that will change pretty quickly as you start to upgrade your Wayfinder's rank. You'll start to get that increase in resilience. It won't get destroyed so fast. But this damage is actually crazy, guys. Like, I don't think any of my characters kills him so quickly. I'm healing in his little damage move. The sustain is really good as long as you time it. Now, I would say that out of all the characters and all the builds that I've made, hers, other than like full glass cannon build, this build do take a little bit of skill. You know what I mean? Like, it got me playing the game. Like, I'm not just, you know, standing there hitting 2 buttons like I did with the wing blade. Like, I'm playing the game. But the reward, you know, like, you know what they say, high skill, high reward, high risk, high reward. This is that. Like, it's not necessarily high risk, but it's high skill, high reward. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, the better you get at the game, the more you learn the boss's animations, the more you learn when to time this. Like, on weaker hits, you take the hit to heal up. On stronger hits, you avoid them. Like, as you're learning those aspects of the game, I think her skill cap is higher than probably anyone else with this build. See, I don't really know when to take the hits. I'm kind of just losing health. Whoa, getting risky, getting scary. You know I can't use pots. That's against the rules. I can't heal. See? I need skills. I'm nervous. Listen, if I die, this video getting posted the way it is. So bear with me. Bear with me. Here we go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. Not yet. I'm nervous. Alright, let's get into it.
Witness true power.
You know I gotta do it like this. Let's heal up, heal up, heal up. Yeah, this is free. Oh my gosh, she's so broken. Good day. Oh my god, 1,000 under the power level. Over 1,000 under the power level. Let me just make sure y'all see this heroic difficulty. And I know y'all want to see the rewards. And I love when this purple is crazy. I kind of be more excited for purple than the red. But let's see what we get. So yeah, one of my longest videos yet. This is Ninja Senja. And honestly guys, this build is crazy. The skill cap, like especially if I take a little bit more time with the echoes and try to get some resilience, maybe get at least 2,000 resilience, you know what I mean? Which can also come from the Wayfinder rank, I know, but get that 2,000 resilience and bruh. And then like I said, with these pots, guys, with the healing, the sustain, the defenses, I'm not gonna lie. I think, no, I don't think, I know that Ninja Senja, and this is my official rating, is God tier for Nightmare mode. God tier. And I didn't think another, I'm not gonna lie, when I started these builds, I didn't think another character would be God tier after Wingrave, and especially not Senja. I am not gonna lie, I had no hope. And now I'm on a bandwagon. Like she's been my favorite character. That's what I'm gonna tell everybody. I've been a Senja main. Ignore the other videos. But it's crazy how good this build is. And this is why this had to be one of my longest videos. It's crazy if you stick around to the end. I understand if you skip. But if you did skip to this point, you should go back and watch it to see how this came out, because this is crazy. But not to hold you guys any longer, I'm gonna end it at that. So this is Ninja Senja, and have a good one.